All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rachah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya from the Great Millstone Charlotte camp, coming at you live, or coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai with another Lord willing edifying lesson. And this one, I got an article that I found from livescience.com, and it's pretty much entitled Proposed Spacecraft Could Carry Up to 2,400 People on a One-Way Trip to the Nearest Star System, Alpha Centauri. So it's pretty much going into some of these ideas that these heathen have to escape, what they would say, an extinction level event, or but we understand, what they're really, thinking about is, at least for the top elite, they're really planning on escaping judgment, planning on escaping, slavery, and being forced to submit unto the Israelites, you know, and they understand this is coming. That's the reason why they have these different think tanks and these different groups, come up with ideas. They'll have their scientists, work up different things and have different people, come up with different ideas. They pretty much encourage people to think on certain topics and have them, come up with different innovations and different, different thoughts, so that way they can see and analyze if that works better for them, and what I'm saying, so they can add it to their, um, pretty much to their plans, to help them forward their agendas and whatnot, right? But it says, the design of a 36-mile long spacecraft called Chrysalis includes libraries, tropical forests, and structural manufacturing facilities, all supported by artificial gravity. So essentially, this is going to be this image right here, but pretty much a spaceship, what's it called? How much did it say? A 36-mile long spaceship that will be able to sustain life. It'll have its own ecosystem, have, you know, uh, like it says, libraries, tropical forests, structural manufacturing facilities, and have artificial gravity, so that people can live on. And you can see, a lot of these ideas, um, being put in some of these movies, like um, Interstellar. What's another one? Don't Look Up. When you look at the end of the movie, Don't Look Up, they're pretty much like cryo sleep, and they end up traveling to another planet in a different galaxy or different solar system or whatever, and they end up landing and end up trying to inhabit that land. But um, that's essentially the idea or the plans of the top elite, to try to run away, try to escape. Here it is, they done all this wickedness. They know that judgment is coming, so they want to figure out a way to escape. But you ain't gonna be able to escape, Esau. That's pretty much the point of this lesson. That these Edomites are not gonna be able to run away and just get away scot free. You know, all these atrocities you done committed, all the people you killed, the bloodshed, right? And you just think the Most High just gonna turn a blind eye to it, or just allow a window for you to just run away? No, man. Judgment is coming, and that's the reason why these top elite are scared. Coming up with different plans, different ideas. That's the reason why they got these bunkers, underwater cities, right? To try to hide, and try to avoid the inevitable, right? Which is slavery. Because what they want and what they hope for is to be able to rise up, after the bombs drop, after the nukes drop. They want to be able to rise up out of the ashes like a phoenix, or even go off to a different planet, what they call you know, Earth-like planets, and start a new life over there. But here it is, Esau can't even manage this earth. You really believe that the Most High is going to allow this man, whom is destroying this planet, he's already destroying this planet, and you think that the Most High is going to allow him just to go off to a different planet and destroy that one as well? That this is all, just vanity at the end of the day. These are all vain ideas, vain thoughts, because we understand that the will of the Lord is to give us, the Israelites, the earth, right? The kingdom of heaven. In all these planets, all the galaxies, multiple galaxies, whatever, pretty much all of space is going to be owned by us, starting with our Lord Yahushua. You see? But Esau, he's trying to find a way to try to, work around that. But there ain't no working around it. There ain't no upsetting prophecy. There ain't no, you know, finding some off distant world and, living for however how long. Nah, it ain't gonna happen. Alright. But let me continue reading more into this. It says engineers have designed a spacecraft that could take up to hold on. Engineers have designed a spacecraft that can take up to 2,400 people on a one-way trip to Alpha Centauri, a star system closest to our own. The craft, called Chrysalis, could make the 25 trillion mile or 40 trillion kilometer journey in around 400 years. The engineers say that their project brief, or said in their project brief, meaning many of its potential passengers would only know life on the craft. It says Chrysalis is designed to house several generations of people until it enters a star system where it could shuttle them to the surface of planet Proxima Centauri b, the Earth-sized exoplanet that is thought to be potentially habitable. Right, because that's one thing. Esau has all these, what they call it, James Webb telescope, and all these different telescopes that he's able to peek into outer space and, look at the heavenly bodies, all these different planets that the angels and Yahweh pretty much are creating and or have created. And Esau is seeing, some of these planets are similar to Earth. Pretty much they have land, they have water, they have greenery, So the Most High is really teasing him and showing him what he's really prepared to give us, the Israelites, right? That we're gonna be, intergalactical. We're gonna be an intergalactical force, an intergalactical government, an intergalactical people. You know what I'm saying? Because we're gonna reproduce so much, man. It's gonna be to the point where scriptures talk about how one of you shall be a nation, shall become a nation, right? So a nation. I mean, even in whenever the Most High spoke to Abraham, he said that we're gonna be as more than the stars of the in heavens. We're gonna be more than the stars in the heavens, more than the sand of the sea. So we're gonna need more than just the planet Earth to inhabit, to live on. We're gonna be, journeying off to probably Mars, or all these other different planets that they talk about, that Esau has cited to have or to be inhabitable, right? Because you gotta understand, we're gonna be like gods, man. We're gonna be like Superman. We ain't gonna need uh 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 spacesuits and all this different equipment to be able to live on or breathe in these different types of environments, right? We are really gonna be spiritual beings in physical bodies, you know, we're gonna be pretty much what they'll call supernatural. We're gonna be supernatural beings to where we're gonna be able to pretty much abide anywhere without, dying. We're gonna be immortal, and this is what Esau wants. Esau, that's what he wants. He wants the blessing, right? That's the reason why he's tapping into transhumanism, you know, trying to uh, transfer your consciousness onto a different body, working on trying to escape the ozone layer or the firmament, planning all these different plans. But ultimately, it's really for him trying to escape judgment. He doesn't want to be put into them shackles. He doesn't want to, suffer that whip to his back. But let me get this, because it talks about that in the book of Psalms. Let me see. It goes into fetters of iron. Bear with me. Psalms 149. I'm going to start up a bit. Psalms 149 and verse 5, it says, "Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds." Right? And who are the saints? It's the Israelites. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and to punish and punishments upon the people. Right. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing, man. We're going to be executing vengeance. Everything that they done to us is going to be paid back unto them twofold. Right? All these heathen had their time where they had us in slavery, and now it's our turn to have them in slavery. And it's going to be a period of 1,000 years, right? Where we're going to be forcing our law, statutes, our commandments, our culture, our customs, right? We're going to be forcing all that upon them, just as they did that upon us, right? But again, it says to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people. And best believe there's going to be some hard punishments upon these people, man. And they're going to be righteous though, right? We're going to be righteous about it. We ain't going to be no cruel Lord like Esau for no reason, just punishing people. Now we're gonna, there's gonna be a reason behind it. It's gonna be just. But it says in verse 8, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. That's exactly what they don't want. That's the point, right? They don't want to be, taken up into chains, because these top elite, when they're hiding in their bunkers, we're gonna take them out their bunkers, and they're gonna be pretty much the first fruits of slavery, right? They're gonna be the first ones to start putting their hand to the plow, and start building up our cities, start erecting our walls, being in the field, gardening. They're gonna be the workforce. You see, because a lot of these, lower level Edomites, a lot of them are gonna die from the nuclear destruction. Everything in America is gonna be destroyed. But even in other, countries, that nuclear fallout might spread over there and might kill off a lot of people. But those in those bunkers, they're gonna, be somewhat safe until we return, until we come down and take the earth, right? And they're gonna be the first ones rounded up, put into slavery, and put to work. Because those that are in those bunkers, they're gonna be the top elite. They're gonna be the wealthy class, the ones that have all the money and the resources to be able to create, such big bunkers deep in the earth. But reading it back, it says to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written, this honor have all his saints. Praise ye the Lord. You see, we're going to execute judgment in that time. All right. But this is why they're creating, or they're coming up with plans and ideas to escape. Whether, like I said, whether it's underwater cities, bunkers, or an actual space trip to a different planet. But it says, going back, reading down, let me see. It says Chrysalis is designed to house several generations of people until it enters the star system, where it could shuttle them to the space of the planet Proxima Centauri b, an Earth-sized exoplanet that is thought to be potentially habitable. You know, and one thing I started thinking just now that came to my